we start rearranging our closets, start time to bring out those sweaters and jackets because temperatures will be turning cooler across a good part of the country, especially so up across the north. We'll watch the polar jet stream kind of sagging southward, and with that, well, there will be some cooler air making its arrival across the upper Midwest and across the Great Lakes. And you really start to feel the cooling effects by Monday. 50s up around Minneapolis, cool readings too for the western lakes, some 60s sliding in towards Chicago, and still rather cool and fall-like too across the northeastern corner of the country. From Boston to New York City, temperatures upper 60s and lower 70s. For the weekend, it will be kind of wet and damp up around the Great Lakes, a chance for some scattered showers and storms, and some disturbances get caught up in that jet stream and they slide off towards the east. Maybe a widely scattered shower or thunderstorm across the southeast, but your best chance of seeing some rain will be across the southwest. All that tropical moisture from Hurricane Ishmael may bring some locally heavy rains, and the rains start to slide off towards the east. Stick around, we'll extend that forecast coming up.
Look what...
Here's the current weather map, and I'll tell you what, it doesn't get much better than this. A big sprawling dome of high pressure remains anchored around the Great Lakes and the Northeast. In complements of that high pressure cell, we'll be seeing wall-to-wall sunshine today. Green Bay, Chicago, Detroit. More delightful weather, too, for Boston and for New York City. No problems throughout most of the west, but across the southwest, an entirely different story. All that moisture from now tropical storm Ishmael continues to feed in across the southwest. We'll be seeing some locally heavy rains today, and certainly the possibility for some flash flooding. Up towards the north, though, disturbance could bring some nasty thunderstorms around Minnesota, especially around the Twin Cities. Watch out for some threatening skies. And temperature-wise, well, actually not too bad for most of the country. 50s, 60s, even a few 70s as we head farther towards the south. A complete look at this morning's weather coming up next. Hurricane Marilyn, the fourth hurricane to hit the Caribbean this season, ripped through Barbados, Dominica, and Martinique yesterday with up to 80-mile-per-hour winds. Meanwhile, in the lower 48, Hurricane Ishmael contributes to the rain event in West Texas and parts of Arizona. We'll have details on this and the forecast for your part of the country coming up next on WeatherScope This Morning, Friday, September 15th.
A scope of coverage you won't find anywhere else. This is WeatherScope This Morning.
Hey, good morning. It's Friday on this September the 15th. That's what it is. This is Vivian Brown, and I'm Cheryl Lemke. And we are certainly earning our paychecks today. All sorts of stuff to talk about. There's some cooler weather coming in across the northeast, even a chance for some scattered hard frost by tonight. And elsewhere, the tropics remain very active.
I'll tell you, we were dealing with Hurricane Luis last month, and this month it is Hurricane Marilyn. Let's give you the very latest from the National Hurricane Center as of 8 o'clock this morning on this.
Well, Ishmael may be causing major headaches across the southwest, but around Florida we have problems of a different sort, and that is with the red tide. An algae bloom known as the red tide has killed literally thousands of fish along Florida's Gulf coastal beaches. The area currently being affected extends from southern Lee County northward over towards Sarasota and Manatee County. The dead fish are being washed on shore and creating a horrible smell for residents. And up in the northeast, we've had some beneficial rains over the last couple of days. We had some rain yesterday for Boston, only 1/10 of an inch of rain, but still that was enough to help them out just a little bit. The rainfall deficit, though, is still pretty bad around the Boston metro area. You're still about 11.5 inches down for the year. Now, indeed, we've had some beneficial rains, as I was mentioning, throughout the northeastern corridor of the country, typically 1/10 to 1/2, maybe even close to an inch of rain for some locales in the last 24 hours, ending as of 8 o'clock yesterday morning. There was also a lot of rain, too, that pelted the southeast. 2 to 4 inches of rain, very common across the Tennessee Valley and the Deep South, but even heavier rains fell across Texas. A lot of this, again, in response to Hurricane Ishmael, or now Tropical Storm Ishmael, and all this deep tropical moisture flowing in. We've had as much as 6 inches of rain for portions of western Texas. Here's a national radar picture this morning, and the rain continues nonstop down here around the southern plain states, but in the northeast, where we could stand to see some rainfall, unfortunately a very dry scenario. We are looking at some showers and storms, though, flaring up along coastal waters of North and South Carolina, so kind of a rough morning for boating or fishing. Showers and storms lined up just off the coast of Wilmington and Cape Fear, and more rains draped southward over towards around Savannah. A big batch of moisture, too, flaring up across the upper Midwest. Showers with some embedded thunderstorms. They're rumbling across Dakotas and now taking aim on west central Minnesota. There's been some showers and storms around Alexandria and around Fergus Falls. And we do think that in time some of those showers and storms will start to pick up around Minneapolis Minneapolis and St. Paul, so keep that in mind. Certainly don't leave the house this morning without a raincoat or an umbrella. Farther towards the south, all of that tropical moisture flowing in. We've had some steady rains plaguing most of eastern New Mexico around Roosevelt, Lee, and Eddy counties. Some steady, heavy rains. Right now it's raining at a pretty good clip around Clovis, New Mexico, and some moderate downpours for Lubbock, Texas. Be especially careful along Interstate 29. Likewise, I-40 extending back towards Oklahoma. It is going to be a rough go this morning as you head off to work or school. Here's the current weather map, and although it's very soggy across the southern plains states, we have some beautiful weather elsewhere around the country. High pressure dominates most of the west, keeping it pretty quiet from Seattle southward over towards San Diego. And just a delightful day dawning across the northeast. Now, granted, we are seeing patchy, dense fog around the lower lakes and around the Ohio Valley, but the fog should be burning off later on this morning and eventually giving way to wall-to-wall sunshine from Detroit northward over towards Boston. Temperature-wise, actually not looking too bad. Maybe just a light jacket or a sweater around Minneapolis and Chicago with temperatures in the 50s. Elsewhere, kind of balmy right along the Gulf Coast. It's 74 degrees this morning for New Orleans and a balmy 79 degrees for Tampa. Let's check out the forecast. We'll see how warm it's going to get for later on this afternoon. And here's the weather map. We really see high pressure dominating most of the weather across the northeast and across the west, keeping the weather very quiet. But down across the south, a day for the rain gear with more heavy, steady rains likely for Texas and New Mexico. Lots of sunshine, though, across the northeast, so break out the sunglasses. From Pittsburgh and Philadelphia northward towards down east Maine, what more could you ask for? And temperatures very comfortable, too. Lots of 60s and 70s, so again, just a light jacket is about all that you'll need. By tonight, though, we're calling for some very cool temperatures throughout the northeast, maybe even a hard frost setting up for sections of the northeast come later on tonight. Across the southeast, well, just about any place will be fair game to see a few hit or miss showers and storms. We think the greatest concentration, though, will be around Savannah and Charleston and running southward over towards Miami and Homestead, Florida. And even heavier rains, though, soaking western Texas, so watch out for some localized flooding. As far as temperatures are concerned, they're pretty warm across the south, still lots of 80s and 90s, but with the extensive cloud cover here across western Texas, that will help to hold back temperatures, so highs at best only in the 70s. Across the Midwest, showers and storms flaring up today. Watch out for some especially potent ones right around Minneapolis come later this afternoon. And again, temperatures, well, actually kind of mild throughout the plain states. Out towards the west, more fair skies, too, running from Seattle down towards San Francisco. But again, one of our worst spots today will be across the southwest. Heavy soaking rains there. Flash flood watches have been posted for parts of New Mexico and for West Texas.
Well, we do have a taste of fall in the air, especially over New England tonight, with temperatures dropping into the 20s and 30s. We'll have more on that coming up next.
Tools, quality tools for every season.
And a good Friday morning to you, and thanks for tuning into the Weather Channel as we check out your tropical update. Now, right now, we are right in the midst of the heart of the hurricane season, and we certainly have a lot of things going on out there. First of all, Hurricane Marilyn. Right now, it's packing winds of 90 miles per hour and lifting off towards the northwest. The central pressure has dropped somewhat compared to what it was earlier this morning. The central pressure has now dropped by some 3 millibars, and by that usually is a strong sign that the hurricane is strengthening, and indeed the winds have increased somewhat from what it was earlier this morning, so now the winds are up to 90 miles per hour. Again, it's churning a path throughout the eastern Caribbean. Now, at least the hurricane force winds are very compact right around the eye of the hurricane. The hurricane force winds extend out some 30 miles from the eye of the hurricane, and the tropical storm force winds extend out some 90 miles. And right now we have been seeing some squally conditions, some strong winds across the northern islands around St. Thomas and St. Croix. There have been some strong winds gusting from 35 up to 40 miles per hour, so certainly some very blustery conditions throughout this region. Now, the hurricane is forecast to possibly strengthen somewhat as we go through the next 24 hours. Also, it will more than likely continue on its northwestern track, and at that rate, the highest strike probability would take it somewhere across the Virgin Islands, or quite possibly it could clip the eastern coast of Puerto Rico. So this is our highest strike probability, at least at this particular point. At this point, hurricane warnings continue throughout the northern islands and extend extending westbound over through Puerto Rico. And that means hurricane-force winds could be felt quite possibly within the next 24 hours or so. Also, you'll be seeing some very rough seas and choppy waters throughout this area. Small craft advisories have been posted. Also, we have heavy surf advisories and coastal flood watches, too, that have been posted. It may not be uncommon to see 5 to 8 inches of rain in the path of this tropical systems. And that is very common with tropical systems. They usually do drop some tremendous amounts of rain. So far around Martinique, we have had reports of over 4 inches of rain, so some heavy soaking rains in association with Hurricane Marilyn. Here's our latest satellite picture of the hurricane. It's a very compact, very organized, a very well organized hurricane at this particular point. Some good outflow, a lot of deep convection in association with it. And again, it can